Welcome back, everybody. Today we're going to be answering one of my most frequently asked questions. The reason I haven't answered it before in different videos is because it's not a simple answer. So what we're going to talk about today is what's commonly referred to as shooting steel-cased ammunition. So the first thing I guess we have to clarify on that is that generally when people ask me that question, they're not referring to steel-cased ammunition. What they're actually referring to is the bullet itself, which is a bimetal bullet, meaning that it's a steel jacket with a lead or steel core. So, for instance, there are bullets that are made with steel cases that are copper bullets. For instance, like Hornady makes them. I know Red Army Standard makes them. There's several examples out there. So, generally speaking, what folks mean when they say steel-cased ammo is they mean steel-jacketed ammo. So, let's talk about that. That's what we're going to talk about here. Mostly, we will talk about the cases a little bit. So, first off, the history of it, right? It's been around for a long time. Folks act like it's brand new to the market, and that the first time there was a steel-jacketed bullet is when Wolf started importing stuff, but it's simply not true. Here in the U.S., we've been using steel-jacketed bullets since at least World War II. That's what a lot of the Penetrator 30-06 ammo was, just steel-jacketed bullets with a lead core. So same stuff, same concept, so there's a good bit of evidence on it. However, and data on it, I should say. However, by far and away, the best, at least that I've seen in terms of documented study that I've seen, is done by Lucky Gunner. So if you guys haven't done that, there's a link here. There will also be a direct link in the video description. So if you haven't read that, I really advise you to check that out because they did a great service for the firearms community with a pretty detailed study on it. So let's go over a few of what they found, and then we'll also get into what I found. Basically, in that study, they shot, I believe it was 4 different rifles with mil-spec 4150 chrome wide barrels. So they shot 10,000 rounds through the guns, and they found a bunch of different things. So let's get into them. Those of you that have already read the Lucky Gunner report know that they used brass-cased ammo as sort of a baseline, and that ammo in that gun fired 10,000 rounds flawlessly with 0 malfunctions. In terms of the steel-cased ammo, the Brown Bear and the Wolf, I believe, had like 9 or 15 malfunctions apiece, something like that. And the Tula ammo, they couldn't even finish the test. Now, let's back up on that too and give you, that's what they found. Then what I've found, I've fired many, many thousands of steel-cased rounds through my ARs. And one thing I found, and many of you can attest to this because I've answered your questions that have asked about this, is that I do like Barnaul ammo. So anything like Brown Bear, Silver Bear, Golden Bear, etc. Those are all different types of 5.56 and 223 ammo that I've had great success with my rifles. It seems to run well. Same with Wolf, as long as it's Wolf that wasn't made at the tool point and then labeled Wolf. So just to clarify that, any of that stuff in my rifles has ran extremely well. So, but tool ammo, I tell people, is the only ammo I won't put in my guns. Now, I've had an AR that's been 100% flawless. I actually had an AK that was 100% flawless, and a Glock 21, which you guys have seen before on the channel here. All of those guns ran 100% until I put tool in them. Every one of those guns had malfunctions with that ammo. That was enough for me to realize that I should never run that in any of my guns again. The folks at Lucky Gunner found the same thing. So in general, I do advise against tool or Tula ammo. It just seems to not be loaded consistently, and seems to just be loaded so inconsistently that it has problems. Steel-jacketed bullets will reduce your barrel life. There's just no getting around it. There's a lot of evidence that suggests this. If you look at the Lucky Gunner site again, they were around 6,000 rounds when those barrels were shot out. Now let's take a look at some of the facts about that study that are going to impact that result, if you will. Number one, all those rounds were fired as fast as possible. So what that does is it creates excess heat beyond what any normal person would ever see in a rifle. So if you're just doing mag dump after mag dump after mag dump, you'll see your gas tube's going to be glowing, your barrel's going to be glowing at points. And when that barrel is that hot, it's going to be less resistant to wear. So it's going to wear more as those rounds are going through it. So yes, they were shot out at 6,000 rounds, but the firing rate and the cyclic rate that those barrels were subjected to is just much greater than anything that most normal people would ever put it through. So that combined with the cleaning, those rifles were cleaned, I believe, just the bolt carrier group every 2,500 rounds, and at 5,000 rounds, the barrels were cleaned. Now, me, myself, I don't do that. I clean my barrels much more often, so if you have to think of all that buildup that's going to be in your rifling as you're firing that repetitively over the course of thousands of rounds, the more that's in there, the more it's going to wear on your barrel. If you think of how lands and grooves are constructed in a barrel, it just makes sense. So my tip for you is if you're firing steel-cased ammo, or steel-jacketed ammo, I really should say, I do recommend that you make sure you clean your barrels out, so you get that stuff out of there to reduce the wear over time. I also recommend that you don't do mag dump after mag dump. If you're going to do that, that's fine. Have fun. It's your gun. But realize you are going to reduce your barrel's life. There's just no getting around it. It's part of the way, I guess, that physics and friction work. Speaking of friction, another thing to consider is that you have two factors that are going to also increase friction in your barrels. Number one is going to be twist rate. So if you have a higher twist barrel, say a 1 in 7 twist barrel, as that round is going down the barrel, it's twisting more than it would be, say, with a 1 in 9 twist barrel. So what that's doing is causing more friction, more wear. Another thing to consider there. How much? I don't know. I don't have quantifiable data on that, but it's something to consider. Additionally, if you're firing a bunch of 55 grain or 50 grain rounds versus a 62 grain or 75 grain round, those heavier bullets will be going slower. Again, less friction as they're going out of the barrel. So those are just things to keep in mind that are going to be factors in terms of your overall barrel life when you're using any ammunition, as well as steel-jacketed ammunition. Earlier I mentioned that during a Lucky Gunner study there was some different terms of reliability. Now there's a bunch of different factors that are going to play into that, but one thing that wasn't really a factor there, but I want to point out here for average folks out there, new gun owners, etc., who are firing these steel-jacketed rounds, is the order that you fire them in. So generally speaking, if you fire brass case and steel case in the same rifle, you want to fire your brass case first, then your steel case. And really here's why. So when you think about how the round is working when it's igniting, right? When that case goes into the chamber and the round is fired, this is your case, right? Let's say, for illustration purposes. If it's steel cased, it expands a little bit as the gas is burning and pushing the bullet forward, versus if it's a brass case, it's going to expand fully and contact that chamber, right? So the steel case isn't going to expand as much, and what's going to happen is more carbon fouling from that burning powder is going to get back in the chamber and build up. Over time, this will lead to an additional coat of carbon and fouling in the chamber that you wouldn't see with brass cases. Now what happens is if you fire brass cases after the steel cases, those are still going to expand fully and sometimes can get stuck in the chamber. So my advice is if you're going to mix the two, number one, don't, or clean out the chamber beforehand if you do. But if you're going to mix the two, go brass case first, then steel case. You'll probably experience less issues doing that. In terms of accuracy, the results are going to vary widely, as you can imagine. The consistency of loading is just as important as the bullet construction is in terms of function. So you really can't say all steel case bullets are this way, all steel jacketed bullet rounds are this way. It's going to vary a lot, but generally speaking, there's going to be less uniformity in the steel jacketed rounds like Wolf, Bear, etc. versus some of your more premium brass cased ammo. So it's going to vary from rifle to rifle and from round to round. In general, you can expect smaller groups from your steel-cased ammo. That said, there's some rifles I have, like my Tavor, for instance. It loves 55 grain Wolf ammo, and I don't know why. It shoots excellent groups with it, just as well or better than some brass-cased ammo. So there's really no hard, fast rule, but generally speaking, yes, you probably see 1 or 2 inches, if you will, in terms of group size, increase with the Wolf or the Brown Bear ammo or whatever kind that you're using out there versus the comparable brass case. Of course, this is assuming 5.56. So that's kind of what I've seen with accuracy, but as always, it's going to vary from gun to gun and from round to round. This video is largely focused on the AR-15 series of rifles, particularly in 5.56, because that's the most common caliber in terms of rifle use in America, the most common rifle used in America. So there's a lot of demand for that ammunition, which causes obviously higher prices as well as more of a cost savings, if you will, with the steel jacket versus other offerings and other calibers. So basically what I've said here kind of applies to the AR-15 rifle series, but will apply across the board. But if you think about the physics of it, again, if you're going to look at like a 7.62 by 39 like an AK round, those rounds are going slower. Again, you got to be looking at the twist rate of the rifles as well, a little bit slower in general, so those are going to have less wear on those types of rounds and barrel combinations. It just makes sense if you think about the physics behind it. Same thing with a handgun. So if you're firing like Wolf 45 caliber ammunition that's traveling at 800 feet per second versus 2,700 feet per second in an AR-15, the wear characteristics are going to be very different. And that's been my my experience using those, I've seen very little difference in terms of barrel wear in handgun rounds and slower rifle rounds. But in AR-15, I have seen some barrel wear, no doubt about it. Granted, my barrels weren't shot out in 6,000 rounds like what you saw in that Lucky Gunner study, but that's probably because some of the things I talked about, the care, the rifles, cleaning them out, and not doing mag dumps after mag dumps, those things that add up. One other thing that folks are always asking about in terms, especially in the AR pattern rifles, is going to be extractor wear. I have not seen any sort of difference. There have been studies that show there's been a little bit more using steel-cased ammo, but I fire, like I said, tons and tons of steel-cased ammo. I have not seen any difference across the board in terms of extractor wear, and I do have rifles that I don't fire any steel-cased ammo in exclusively, and then others that I fire only steel-cased ammo in exclusively. Again, I have not seen a difference in terms of wear on the extractor, just my experience. Hopefully by now I haven't lost you yet, but some of you who are still here with me are probably thinking, why would I ever shoot steel-cased ammo in my rifles if that's the case, if everything you say about them is so bad versus the brass-cased and copper-jacketed stuff? The difference is simple. It's cost. That's the reason. That's the reason people do it. The difference in cost is huge. Today, when I shot this video, 2014, I went and looked up the price of bulk ammo shipped online. I looked at 5,000 rounds of each. So the cheapest 5.56, or correction, 223 I could find was, just wrote it down here on notes, was $1,100 for 5,000 rounds of 223. The cheapest I could find. Now, for brass case, the cheapest I could find, 5,000 rounds was at 31 cents. It was $1,550. So you can see the difference in price there. Now, AR-15 barrels are not that expensive. They also happen to be a very simple rifle pattern to work on. So most people with minimal tools can replace their barrels at home with the tools and the knowledge. So if you think about, if you're going to be out doing high volume shooting and you don't mind replacing your barrel on your rifle, it does make sense sometimes for some people to go ahead and do that and buy the cheaper ammo and just replace the barrel. That's kind of how I look at it, because obviously running the channel here, I do a lot of high volume shooting, and I shoot both brass cased and steel cased. It just depends, because I like to get a feel for the rifle behaving and, you know, with both types of ammo. But in general, I probably shoot 70%, maybe 75% of the rounds I put through my ARs here on the channel are going to be steel jacketed, steel cased ammo, because just the cost of and the volume of rounds that I put through to do the reviews here. So that's why you do it. If it's not worth it to you, if you don't want to rebarrel your rifle, or if you just think it's bad for your gun, or that they're dirtier, which generally the steel-cased ammo is a little dirtier as well. If those are factors for you, by all means, buy the steel jacket, buy the brass-cased ammo, excuse me, not steel-cased ammo. Brass-cased, good quality stuff, and you'll probably have less issues as well, no doubt about it. But if it's high volume and you're looking to save a little bit of money, yeah, steel-cased, steel-jacketed ammo may not be bad. It's really your decision. That's just been my experience with it, guys. That's what others have found with their studies. And I hope that answers some of the questions I've gotten over the years of doing this channel, which I've gotten tons and tons of questions on this. If you guys have any questions that I didn't answer, feel free to post them in the comments section, and I'll try to get back to you and cover those answers. You can also post over at my Facebook page as always. But thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for subscribing. I hope I didn't bore you too much with this one, and I hope to see you in the next video.